Hey guys, it's Kat and I'm back today to do my 1 month 1 palette series for March. Now, if you're not familiar with what this series is, I focus on a palette for a month. I use it pretty much 3 to 4 times a week, and then I report back with the looks I created and let you know what I think about the palette overall after using it as my main palette. So this month I focused on the Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam palette. Whenever I do use an Anastasia Beverly Hills palette, I look forward to it because I quite like the formula. In my personal preference, it sort of ticks a lot of boxes and behaves in a way that I like. I know a lot of people don't like the Anastasia Beverly Hills formula, and that's totally fine as well. But I created 13 looks with this palette this month, and I've recreated one at the end. So what's on my eyes now, which is a really soft it's got a bit of color, but it's very, very subtle. I recreate that look at the end. So if you want to see that, you can wait until the end. So I'm going to now go through the looks that I created from look number 1 through to look number 13. And I'm going to let you know what I used, what I thought about the look, and then overall at the end, what I think about this palette after using it reasonably extensively in March. All right, the first look that I created, I mainly used this shade Sultry here because that was a shade that really intrigued me the most. It's sort of like a bronzy burgundy shade, and it is a shimmer, and it's quite a nice shimmer, but I really like bronzy browns. I like cool toned shimmery browns, sort of olivey bronzy browns. And so whenever I find a palette, that's always like the first thing that I look for. But this palette, if you can see, has no shimmery browns. It's only got an abundance of matte browns. So that was the first thing I was like, okay, I'm going to sink my teeth into that. So this look on the screen, I mainly used that all over the lid. And then I used rose pink as a bit of a highlight, or just to brighten it a little bit, because look, let's be real, Sultry, even though it's a nice color, and swatched, it's actually quite a nice color, it actually performs quite satin-ish on the eyes. So I really wanted some more vibrancy, which is why I turned to rose pink. I also used the shade Glistening as an inner corner highlight. This shade is an interesting shade. It's very similar to the shade Fairy underneath, but Fairy is more of a brighter yellow, whereas this is more of it's almost got a peachy shade to it, which makes it very almost neutral, as a neutral pop. Then I used 2 mattes just to blend it out. So even though this look is fine, and I do like the depth of color I got with it, and I think it really sort of summarizes soft glam, like it's soft colors, but it's a little bit glam. I just didn't think this had the metallic pop that I sort of wanted from it. I was a little bit disappointed with Sultry. The next look I actually really liked. This one was a 1 color look. This had the shade Orange Soda, which is like bright citrusy peach color. I don't know, it's actually quite fun, and it's more like an apricot orange, but a bright sort of pastel color. I think it applied really nicely all over the lid, and it actually created a really good 1 color look. I liked this. I would totally reach for this palette again just to create that. I think that was a fun, just matte, bright look. So I thought that was cool. That color is quite unique, and I would reach for this palette to sort of incorporate that color because it's cool. Look number 3 is also a really soft look. I used the shade Glistening that I spoke about before, so that almost peachier, shimmery nude, and I used burnt orange as well, just in the crease. But yeah, it wasn't anything special. It just shows how soft you can get the looks in this palette. Look number 4 is sort of more my jam. This one used rose pink all over the lid. This again is a really soft sort of shimmery shade. It's not super, super metallic. It's not super, super bold, but it's very soft, and it's got a beautiful pink tone to it. So it's sort of nude, but definitely pink. So I used that all over the lid. I blended it out with this soft purple shade. I used bronze, which is actually not really a bronze. It's more like a yellow gold shimmer. I used that in the inner corner, which is a really fun shade. I will talk about this more soon because I did use it in multiple looks. But it's not a bronze. It's like a yellow gold with sparkle, but it can be very, very effective color. Then I use the shade Tempera, which is sort of like an off-white. It's got a little bit of sheen to it. It's not completely matte. It's not super satin. It's just got a little bit of iridescence to it. I use that sort of brow bone and blending out. So I like this look. I think it's a fun sort of colorful look, and it really shows the colors that you can get in this palette. There are some colors in here, but once again, they're very, very soft and they're very muted. Here we have a look for look number 5 that mainly uses that shade Bronze. So like I said, it's that sort of yellow gold with a darker base. It's that one there, but it's mainly a sparkly, sort of like a micro sparkle shimmer. It's a very pretty shade. In this look, I tried to build it up quite a lot, and I noticed that one limitation with it is if you apply it wet, it actually starts to like crumble once it's dried down. So yeah, if you really want to intensify this and make it really, really, really metallic, this formula doesn't really participate as much as I would like. There is an overall theme in this palette of sort of muted shimmers. So yeah, this one looks quite reflective in the pan, and you can get a very vibrant gold look on the eye, but not as vibrant as other Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes. Other shades that I used with this look, I used Mulberry, which is a really beautiful, almost wine shade. It's that one there. I really loved this, and I loved pairing it with other sort of warmer shades. So whenever I use this gold, I often paired it with that mulberry color. It adds a really beautiful depth to the look. It's a little bit, so it's nicely pigmented, but it's a little bit, I almost feel it's a little bit gritty. It's a very strange one, but it works well with the pinks. It works well with a lot of the colors here, just to add some sort of smoky depth and richness to a look without it overtaking like a black might. Whenever I have a palette that's got a lot of mattes, I often like to do one look that is all matte, and that's what this look is. This is a very warm, sort of rich matte look, and you can see that you can get quite a bold matte look, and it does blend out very nicely. You don't need to pack it on too much. This look is 3 shades. I used Burnt Orange, which is that shade there, so that sort of reddy color. I used Tempera to sort of blend it out a little bit, and I also used Sienna, which is the one next to it. So that burnt orange, that reddy color, and then I just sort of blended it, diffused it with that color there. So that's what I did to create that look, and I actually really like the look. I used a green on the waterline, and I think it's a really sort of nice autumn look. These mattes do apply quite nicely. They blend quite nicely. They're quite well pigmented. My issue, and I'll talk about it a bit more later, is I just feel like there's too many warm browns that look very, very similar. So the next look is a bit of a weird one. It uses 2 shades, and once again, it's almost like an all matte look, but this is very different for this palette. I think this look on the screen that you can see now is very cool toned, and when I look at that look, I don't actually see it in this palette. But the way I did it was I used the shade Rustic, which is that one there. It's more of a, instead of it being red toned, it's more of a, I don't know, more of a cooler toned brown. It's not cool toned brown, but it's cooler than these ones here. I used that, and I used Tempera. So I pretty much put the brown on the outer half of the lid and the lower lash line, and then over the top and on the inner corner, I patted Tempera, and I created this look. I actually really like this. Look number 8, I wanted to go, once again, a little bit more fun colors. So I used Rose Pink, which is that pink metallic shade, and Orange Soda together, so all over the lid, in the crease. So compared to the last look, it's just a bit more bright and soft and fun, but it's just as simple, and it's a really fun like spring summer look. The next look was probably one of my favorite looks, and I feel like it might also be the styling of it. I really liked it with the color I wore. I really liked it with the lip color I wore. So this look had, once again, Sultry, which is that sort of burgundy shimmer shade all over the lid. I used Bronze, which is that gold color in the inner corner. And I used that sort of cooler toned brown to blend it out. And it's, for something that's got 3 colors, I think it looks really, really interesting. These are the sort of autumn colors that I love to reach for. And this is the eye tone that I really like as well. So I don't really like very light eye looks. I don't really like very, very sort of dark, smoldering eye looks. I like this sort of mid-toned look, and I think I really like this look. I paired it with a brown liner, and I really dig it. So this is probably my favorite, or one of the looks that I find quite flattering. And this really gives me the vibes of soft glam. For me, it's quite glam, but it's also not too bold or too colorful. I really liked this look. The next look, I went pretty bold. This was a filming look, so I had the false lashes, I had the black wing eyeliner, and this was, yeah, taking the glam to the next level. So this was one of the only looks that I used with black, but all over the lid I have bronze, so that goldy color again, and then I used mulberry, so once again this sort of shade in the corner, that really wine matte color, which works beautifully with the bronze. I use that mainly in the crease. You can see in the where I'm looking down, you can see where I put that. Then I blended that out with tempera, so just to help with blending, and then I added noir, which is the black, to sort of blend out the liner. And I think this was a really cool look. Very, very bold. This is a very like smoldery look. So if you saw this palette and you're like, oh, I can't really turn it from day to night, you really can. With this side of the palette, especially with the black and that wine color and a bit of that gold, you can really turn these looks quite evening appropriate. All right, look number 11 is the one that I recreated at the end of this video. So it's the one that I'm wearing now. And I know the lighting's not the best. I'm filming this a lot later than I normally would. I've been editing beauty news all day, but whatever. So this look is a little bit brighter and lighter, but I wanted to demonstrate this one instead of like look number 8 or whatever the one was that I really liked with the headband that I was wearing. I wanted to use this one instead because I think it utilizes some of the more fun shades. So the look that I'm wearing today, I used tempera to sort of set the crease a little bit. I used this mauve color in the crease. Then I used this yellow on the inner corner, which is very, very brightening. I used that pink on the inner part or the middle part of my lid, and then I used more of the purple on the outer part of the lid. So there'll be a photo on the screen where I think it shows it a lot better than in the video right now, because the lighting is a little bit, it's not harsh, but it's getting a bit dark. So there's a lot of shadows and whatnot. But I just like this look because it's quite unique to this palette, and it shows how soft but like colorful some of these looks can be. The next look is a really basic one. I'm just using sultry all over the lid and blending it out with the shade underneath it, so the shade rustic. So I'm using those two there, and it just demonstrates that you know, I'm sort of at that time I was having a bit of an urge for a deeper shimmer look. I like sort of mid-tone shades, like I said before, and that was just me being like, I want more of them in this palette. And the last look, I decided to go once again a little bit more sultry. I wore this filming, and I really wanted to utilize the black again because I'd only used it once in these photos. And the look does use quite a few shades. So I'm going to show the shades on the screen, but you can see what I've pretty much done here is I used rose pink all over the lid. I blended it out with a variety of things, and then I packed on mulberry over the top because I really wanted to have more of a wine colored shimmer, and I found that if you used the mulberry shade and then shimmer over the top, the shimmer tends to lighten the look a lot, but I really wanted to have that sort of autumn wine look. So this was, yeah, it was quite a successful look. And I remember when I was wearing it, this was only yesterday, I had Haley over and I said, guess what palette I'm wearing in my eyes? And she could not guess that it was the soft glam because it was very, very glam for the soft glam. But I thought it was a good thing to end on because it shows that you can really go soft or you can really go deep and glam with this palette, which I do like that versatility. I also wanted to mention that I had used this palette many times as well that I didn't take photos of. Some were just basic looks that were sort of similar to what I had already done, but also I was using the Juvia's Place, the Tribe palette this month, and I used this palette quite a lot to pair with it. So because that's a very green and bright palette, I used this to put in some of the matte browns, some of the highlight shades to really ground that look. So I found this to be quite a versatile palette when pairing with colorful palettes as well. But I didn't take photos of those to incorporate into this video, but I did use it on those occasions as well. So even though I've got 13 looks that I documented, I probably used it, you know, closer to 18 times. And I think overall what I sort of have decided with this palette is look, the quality is Anastasia Beverly Hills quality, but I feel like the shimmers are toned down. So instead of them being more like bold, sort of foiled almost looks, the shimmers are a little bit more sheer and a little bit, you have to build them quite a bit. I found if I wanted to use these shimmer shades quite bold, I'd have to use a glitter glue with them, and that's not a problem in itself, but I'm so used to Anastasia Beverly Hills formula, like the sultry palette, sorry, like if I go in with a bold sort of shimmer, it applies really nicely, blends really nicely, and I don't really need to build it up. Whereas with these shimmers, I did feel like I needed to build them up, and with the lighter shimmers, I feel like you couldn't even really get it super bold because the nature of them is they're almost like a topper, soft sort of look, which is not a problem in it. The whole palette is designed to be like soft looking palette, so I get it. When it came to the formula of the mattes, I quite liked them. They are a little bit soft, so you can get a little bit of fallout, but the pigmentation is really nice with the mattes. The blendability is really, really nice. I just think the limitation for me is that these 4 mattes were too similar. I really liked the addition of the Cypress Umber, which I believe was also in the Modern Renaissance. But I think the reason I liked that was because it was a cooler toned brown. And I feel like some of these ones were like too warm, and not that that's a problem, but I just feel like if they all give a similar look, they don't all need to be there. Now, I'm all for having a variety of mattes to create different overall effects, but I just would have liked to have seen some more variety in these 4 shades, because I often didn't even bother reaching for this one because it looks so similar to that one, and I'd just sort of reach for the other one because I can. I just felt like they were taking up too much room in this palette. So being me and really liking sort of cooler tone bronze shades, I would have loved to have seen maybe one of these shades being taken out and instead be like a shimmer of a similar color, because I would have loved a beautiful bronze. I'm really glad they had the dusty rose shade in there, because that was a nice change from these warm mattes, because if you wanted a look to be a little bit more cool toned, I really did like this. So overall, this was not my favorite Anastasia palette, like I said before. It's just not the color story that I often go for. These really lights aren't really my jam, but I do think that there are some beautiful shades in this palette. I particularly love the addition of that mulberry shade. It's like a beautiful deep wine color, and it's quite unique, and it really did help transform a look into daytime to nighttime without having to reach for a black or a brown. I thought it was a really, really beautiful shade. So there are some beautiful shades in here, but I do find it a little bit boring. Like, I do like a bit of color, and even though you can get a little bit of color and sort of soft color, this wasn't really my perfect palette. All right, time to announce the palette that I'll be focusing on in April, and I'm very excited about this. I tend to ping pong when I'm doing this sort of project. I tend to choose like a quite muted palette, and then I jump to a colorful palette, and then I get sick of colors and I go back to neutral. And since I did a neutral palette, I'm really excited to get back into color. So I am going to be focusing on the Gemini palette from Melt Cosmetics. Now, unfortunately, this is a discontinued palette, but it is a really, really great palette. I love these greens, these sort of like, I call them swampy greens, but I think they're more like mustardy greens, are like my jam. There's a black to make it quite like deep and smoky, and there are more nude shades. So you have some warm nudes, you have more of a cooler neutral nude, some more neutrals here. So I'm very, very excited to use this throughout April. All right, so that's it. But if you want to keep on watching, you can see how I got this eye look, which is an example of that sort of delicate, soft, really muted color thing that this palette has going on. So this is the soft in the Soft Glam, the soft. All right, on my eyes, I've got the Bare Minerals Gen Nude eyeshadow primer in the shade Lit. And then I'm going to go in with the shade Tempera. This is just to put into the crease a little bit so I can blend the matte a little bit easier. Then I'm going in with Dusty Mauve, and I'm just putting that softly in the crease to begin with. I will build this up a little bit later. Then I just want to pack the shade Fairy onto the inner third of the lid. Packing these on because they're quite light shades can take a bit. You could always apply it wet if you want, or over a glitter glue, but this is a soft look. So just, you know, packing it on to get the color. And I'm also doing that on the lower lash line as well. So whatever I do to the top, I do to the bottom. Then with the same brush that I've just sort of tapped off the yellow, I've gone in with, what is this color? Rose Pink. Now this one, once again, I think this would be better over a really sticky base. I sort of put my primer on about, I don't know, 20 minutes ago. So this is not sticking the best. You can see it's a nice sort of soft pink shade, but you might need to go in with your finger to get more of an intense pink look. On the same brush, just blend it off a little bit. I've just got that matte dusty mauve color again, and I'm just putting that on the last sort of portion of the eye. Bit of fallout going on, but this dusts away pretty easily. Pretty much got the guts of it going on, so I'm just going to go back in and just intensify some of the colors a little bit. So back with the fluffy brush just to put more mauve in the crease, a little bit more pink that I lost in some of that blending. But I'm just going in with a pencil brush just to intensify the yellow a little bit. Once again, these are soft colors, so if you want to get the distinction going on, you sort of have to just build them a little bit. So there's a look there. It's nothing super exciting. It's not hard to do. It's just mixing some of the brighter colors that are a little bit more fun and trying to keep them separate so you can sort of see the yellow through to the pink and then the purple in the outer corner. It might be hard to see in this lighting. I'm just going to put some mascara on and then we can see the final look. All right, that's a look with mascara. So it's a very, very simple sort of fun daytime look.